Welcome back to the third and very last podcast or episode of MoneyStars. Time flies by so fast, doesn't it? For our last episode, we'll be venturing into the topic of money and why it matters, even if you're just starting out. Think it sounds intimidating? Then continue listening. I'm your recurring host, Huda. Do not fret, as we have a special guest today to discuss the various topics we've planned for this episode. Everyone, please welcome Hui Min. They are a Singapore Polytechnic student who's very knowledgeable on financial matters. Not only will you be learning, we would as well. So, Hui Min, would you like to do the honor of introducing yourself? What is your name? What do you like? And what do you do?
Hi, I'm Hui Min, and I think my hobbies would be cooking and baking, but and I've also started reading about finances. I am I'm a year three student at Singapore Polytechnic.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know how to cook or bake at all. I don't think I belong in the kitchen, but yeah, that's a very interesting hobby. So, okay. So, Hui Min, before we get into the deep stuff, why do you think most people your age kind of like avoid talking about money?
I think to them it feels like a taboo or like a heavy and overwhelming topic because it's not something
Mm,
that we as students discuss openly in school.
mm.
So we also have this mindset that money is something that only adults discuss when we were when we were younger. This is a mindset that we had. So we just don't really talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. Even like as a banking and finance student myself, I don't really think about money. Okay, I would think about money more often than I did when I was in secondary school, but the extent of it isn't really that far because
Yeah.
I think like people our age, we tend to spend impulsively, and I'll say the majority of us are pretty over reliant on our parents' money and the allowance they give us either every day, every week, or every month. So there's not much of like a concept of saving and the importance of saving. Like
Yeah.
personally for me, right, when I receive my allowance, I'll think it's like, oh, okay, it's just my allowance. I can finish it within 1 week because uh my parents would just transfer me the money next week anyways. But then I realized that kind of habit is not won't really work because I would just spend it all on Monday. Then I will suddenly realize like, why is it gone so sudden? And it's because like, oh, I've been spending impulsively. So, Hui Min, do you have like similar experiences to this? And it doesn't have to be like positive, like it can also be negative or just something you remembered.
Yeah. Actually, um, I've only started to mind about my savings more like right now. But in the past, I would drain my allowance on random items and never really thought about saving. There was this one time I got an ang pao for my birthday and I spent
Mm,
the whole thing in a week and I
and
couldn't even recall what I spent the money on. Yeah, so I made it a point to try to save right now.
yeah, for real. I had a similar situation like yours. Back then when I used to have a job, unfortunately, I the highest salary I had was like $500, which is actually yeah, it was the highest salary I had lah. Then although I tried to save, like keyword tried, it will be like suddenly gone within 1 month because I've spent it all on my hobbies, and then I realized like, okay, I know it's my hobby and I want to be consistent in it, but then I also have to prioritize my what's that called, my essentials, like my food, also my transport. I can't rely on my parents too much. So yeah, I think a lot of people our age tend to have this similar problem now. So yeah, it's something we
Yeah.
have to think about now. So let's talk about this week's TikToks. So my friend Junyu, he has went out of his way to post about surviving Singapore under a Pokemon pack. So you've seen the TikTok, right? And it was quite
Yep, I have.
entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
very
Junyu,
interesting.
yeah, Junior has actually managed to survive the entire day, like the whole 24 hours under his Pokemon pack pools. I'm not really that knowledgeable on Pokemon, the trading card game,
Mm.
but I am trying to learn more about it. And I think it's quite interesting that even before starting this TikTok, he has to learn more about the market price of the pools that he has gotten, and then like he has to base the amount of money he has to spend the entire day because of because of the pool. So imagine if he gets like every card he got is like, I don't know, less than 10 cents or 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh so what is your opinion on TikTok? Like, do you find it fun, entertaining, or like is there anything you've like remembered from TikTok that you find it quite interesting?
I think it was really interesting because I'm always up for finding new and creative ways for us to budget. I think it all boils down to planning and decision making, which I think we can try as well. Because Pokemon pools are so random and you never know what the value of the card is that you're
Yeah,
gonna pull.
true. Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I feel like I think he is quite resilient. Even like it made me realize that yes, Singapore is expensive, but then if you go out of your way to try to find budget meals, or like you try to stray away from spending impulsively, like you don't have to get that
yeah,
blind box. Or if you're feeling sad that day, you it's not okay, it is reasonable to buy something when you're feeling sad, but it doesn't have to be every day. Like, it doesn't have to be a treat every day, and it
yeah,
might be
I
the cost.
agree.
Yeah, it might be the cost of losing money. So yeah, I think Junior has did his very best doing that TikTok, and I found it really interesting. So okay, next part. So let's get practical. Say I am 21 years old and I just started earning part-time. What should I do with my money?
I would say when you get your salary, you should section maybe at least 30 to 40% of it for your savings, and then you can spend the rest. But when you spend, you have to track your spending and then also simultaneously build your emergency fund.
Mm.
And I think you should do this for every month if possible, and just put your money in your savings first before spending the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's a quite good advice. So another question. Do you think that impulse spending is a prevalent problem in youth, and especially university students or full-timers? Is there like, do you think there is a difference between like teenagers, like let's say 17 to 20-year-olds versus 21 to 24-year-olds, and how they face this problem of impulse spending?
Definitely. I think regardless of the age group, uh, we all face this issue. Even adults may face this issue like nowadays because
Mm.
of the blind box craze. I
Yeah.
think spending is such a big issue, and even I face it as well. I didn't even know where my funds were depleted, especially with things like online flash sales and social pressure. When we get our salary, we would usually want to spend it all at once,
Yeah.
because you see money coming in and you the first thought is just to spend it all. But then
Right.
I feel like you don't often have to feel like you have to reward yourselves, especially after exams or payday. I think it isn't wrong to reward yourself, but then if you always spend without thinking, it will definitely snowball.
Right, right. I think yeah, that's really good input. Personally, although yes, I do believe that you should treat yourself if you're having a particularly bad day, or if you achieve something that you been like trying to achieve. I think it's a good reason to buy something for yourself. But I wouldn't say every single thing you have to celebrate. Okay, it does sound negative, but I would say you don't necessarily have to spend money to
Yes.
celebrate your wins. You can always, talk to your friends. That's one way to, rejuvenate yourself and make
Yeah.
you feel better. So yeah, I think that is one huge problem I see and observe within our age group, people in our age group, and
Mm-hmm.
especially, university students. So for the next part, let's bust the myth really quick. So what's the worst money advice you've ever heard?
I think it would probably be you only live once and that you're young, you should spend while you can and enjoy now. Just save later. Like, I get the sentiment, but it also ignores the power of just starting young. Because if you put your money into, let's say, fixed deposits, you can your money can compound and it doesn't like compound interest doesn't care how young or old you are. It just gives you a better start if you start young.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like YOLO is the death of our savings, honestly, because I mean, yeah, it's good to have fun every once in a while, but keyword, yeah, it's good to have fun every once in a while, not every single time. And well, I do agree that I mean, we do only live once, but that doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice what you have now just
Yeah.
to, yeah, like kind of, how do I say this? Like, it will affect your future. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people will always think about now, but then they will never think about the future. And that's one problem that I feel like we should face head on.
True. I think planning
And
for the future
yeah,
is very important.
yeah, it doesn't matter if like you don't know what your future would entail. I think like personally for me, like money is a very easy way to plan, especially for the future because you have it now and you don't know how much you have in the future, like in the yeah. So like one mistake I made early on was thinking that small saving didn't matter. Like if I couldn't save $100, then I wouldn't save anything. But ten
Mm.
dollars is actually better than $0. So I've made it a point. So my parents, my dad, he gives me $70 per week. So I'll make it a point to put away $20 into my other card, and then I'll spend the $30 for lunch. And I'll try not to eat out as often. If I have food, and especially if I have my water bottle, I don't have to buy bubble tea or like a sweet drink. I'll I like focus on my water bottle instead. And I realized that it will actually it kind of how do I say this? Like it helped me actually because I'm the type of person to how do I say, spend impulsively, and then but then if I like, and I don't know if it helps for anyone, but then I tend to forget that I actually put money away in another card. Then if I
Yeah.
realize that I actually save it in my other card, then I'm like, oh, actually I save, and it makes me feel more good about myself.
That's nice because I also have a similar strategy. I get my allowance every month, so I just section a part of it first before spending the rest. Like you.
Nice. Yeah. So all right, if there's one takeaway from this episode is this, you don't need to be rich to start caring about money, but you do need to care in order to get so-called rich. So what have you learned, Hui Min?
I think for me is that you don't have to earn a lot of money before you start. You just have to start. Maybe ask the adults around you for advice because that's how we grow.
Right? Yeah, I agree. Um, I think we did talk a lot about impulse spending, but honestly, it is a huge problem within the people our age, like youths, especially because we are in a blind box epidemic. Like I will see people getting a whole box of Labubus just to get one specific one that they wanted. And I find that really wasteful. And I feel
Yeah.
that we can use our money for better causes like saving for the future or even donating. Like it can like you spend all this money just because you wanted one specific thing. We're very sad to see us go since this is the last episode, but it's okay. There'll always be a next time, hopefully. And with that, thank you so much, Feimin.
Thank
And thank you,
you.
yeah, thank you to everyone for listening to Money Stars podcast. And be money smart. Bye.